Are you wondering what is the best place for you to grow food for your family at home? In this video, I'm going to share with you the pros and cons of growing food in a raised bed such as this one versus a container such as this 5-gallon bucket. Welcome to Healthy Fresh Homegrown. I'm Mark, a published author of 2 gardening books with over 15 years of experience growing food and putting healthy, fresh, homegrown food on my family's table. Let's jump in and first take a look at the pros of growing in containers, especially for beginners. So for many beginners, growing in containers such as this one makes a lot of sense. First of all, if you're only able to garden on a balcony, or you only have patio in a house that you're renting that you can use, containers are going to be your only option. And the good thing is, if you move one day to another place, you can take your containers with you. But even if you own a house like I do, growing in containers is still something that you can do either in addition to or instead of growing in raised beds, especially if you're just starting out, to reduce the overwhelm and still be able to grow food for your family. So the main advantage of container gardening is the flexibility that it offers you. You can definitely move containers around as you need to if you find that containers are not in full sun, or you find that you're constantly having to walk around them and they're in the way, or even in wintertime, you can move them to a more sheltered location, especially for perennial plants, into something like my greenhouse here if you happen to have one, or into a more sheltered location such as a carport or a garage. And you can also make themed planters. So you can actually create what I call a salad container garden, which is basically lettuce and tomatoes and maybe some green onions growing in one container. And in this video here, I show you how to actually set up a salad container garden. The great thing about the salad container garden is it can be located close to your kitchen door or your patio door, so that you can just quickly grab some lettuce and some tomatoes for a fresh salad or for a sandwich or wrap. And it can be extended to other types of containers as well, such as this container that we have just outside our kitchen door that is filled with green onions that we can just snip off if we are making miso soup or a stir fry. So handy. And the other great thing about a container is that you can control the soil quality. So you can actually buy a good quality organic potting soil. You don't need much of it, so you can pay a little bit more for a better quality soil. And the other good thing is that you can actually raise your containers off the ground, either in hanging containers or containers that are on a table or something, to keep them away from pests such as slugs and snails. And finally, it can be really cheap to grow in containers. This 5-gallon bucket is one example where you can take a discarded food grade bucket and actually plant some peas in it, like I did here and shown in this video that I'll link to here. And I have some more ideas for how you can use other types of recycled and cheap containers here in this video on 6 container ideas. So before I talk about the pros of growing in raised beds, please let me know in the comments below where you actually grow food. Is it in containers, raised beds, or both? So raised beds are on the other end of the spectrum in terms of size and what you can actually do with them. And they're most suited because of their permanence to someone who is a homeowner like I am, or maybe to renters who have made special arrangements with their landlord to actually set up a raised bed, and they'll likely be around maybe for 1 to 2 years before they have to move. And for renters, usually the arrangement is also to remove the raised beds if they do move one day, or to leave them for either a future renter or for the landlord to use themselves. And you typically also have more depth in a raised bed to actually grow root crops such as parsnips or carrots that need more length. Now these raised beds are only about a foot in height, but keep in mind that they also are not closed at the bottom, so they're able to use the native soil underneath the beds to their advantage. And the other good thing about raised beds is you can actually fill them up with soil and build up the soil over time by adding fresh compost every year to get the soil to a healthy level to support lots of plants and to support good growth. And as with containers, the other thing you can do with a raised bed is that you can actually make a themed raised bed, which means you could actually probably grow the ingredients for, let's say, salsa or tomato sauce during the summer to last for the whole year if you prepare it and can it or freeze it. Before I cover some of the cons of both containers and raised beds, I'm pleased to announce a new membership option in my membership Seed to Table called the Membership Sampler. This completely free membership gives you access to 3 pieces of content so that you can get a taste of what Seed to Table offers. Register for free by clicking on the link in the video description below. Even though containers are great for beginners, there's just some things that you need to keep in mind. First of all, they have a tendency to dry out quicker than if you're growing in the ground or in raised beds. So you do need to keep up with watering, and usually you need to water in very hot, dry weather at least once a day, although sometimes you may find you need to water twice a day. And especially if you get hot winds, they'll dry out a lot quicker as well. And if you go on vacation quite often in the summer, you'll need to at least have some way of watering them either automatically through some kind of drip irrigation system or have someone that can come by and actually water them for you. And in addition to watering, you also need to keep up with fertilizing. Because you're watering them constantly, you'll find that the soil gets depleted quicker. So you will need to keep up with fertilizing, and I recommend using a liquid fertilizer at least every 2 weeks, basically replacing one of your waterings. So the main issue with raised beds is the cost. Obviously, with having to build beds like these or even buying a kit, you're going to incur more costs than what you would if you were, let's say, just growing in some containers that you've been able to recycle. Beds will also be around for many years, at least you hope so. So to ensure that they last a long time, considering your investment, you want to make sure they're built out of sturdy, strong materials. My wooden beds are built out of western red cedar, which is durable and fairly rot resistant. And you can also implement some construction techniques that will ensure that your beds will last longer than if you just slap them together quickly with some nails. So see this video here for 5 tips on how to build more long-lasting, better raised beds. And also consider how much soil you're going to have to add to your bed. A typical 4 by 8 foot bed, like you see here in this picture that I built for a friend, requires quite a bit of soil. So 4 by 8 by about 1 foot in depth requires around 32 cubic feet of soil, which is approximately 1.2 cubic yards. So as you can see, there's lots of different reasons why you may want to grow in containers or in raised beds, or maybe both. I haven't covered in detail what you actually need to grow in containers and raised beds, so I'll put some links in the description below to some other videos that you might find useful. And if you're looking for some all-inclusive kits of things to actually purchase, depending on whether you're doing container gardening or raised bed gardening, I have also created some kits on kit.co so that you can then check out what you'll need and either shop locally or shop online through my links. So if you have any questions, be sure to ask them below, whether it's about growing in containers or growing in raised beds. And check out this other video on 6 container growing ideas. Thanks for watching and good luck growing in containers or in raised beds.